She's the 17-year-old girl accused of shooting and killing her mom and dad. Her social media has gone viral after law enforcement says she tried to cover up her alleged crime by seeking sympathy on TikTok. But we spoke with Sarah Grace Patrick's grandfather, who says there is more to this story. Do you believe she's the one who did this?
No.
Why he believes Sarah Grace Patrick is innocent and what he says she told him from jail. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. It is hard to imagine what Dennis Nolan and his family is going through right now. Not only is he Sarah Grace Patrick's grandfather, but he is the dad of Kristin Brock and the father-in-law of James Brock, the two people who were shot and killed in February in their home in Carrollton, Georgia, as they slept, according to law enforcement. Before I get to the interview that I just had with Dennis, his first since Sarah Grace was arrested this week by the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, I did just speak with their spokesperson today about this case, and here's the information that I have. She wouldn't comment on whether the gun that was used to kill the Brocks has been found, and she wouldn't comment on whether Sarah has had any documented mental health history. She also wouldn't go into detail on what she called a mountain of evidence that investigators in Carroll County, Georgia have in their case against Sarah Patrick. Now, she said Sarah cooperated with the investigation into the death of her parents on February 20th. She was the one who called 911 after investigators say her little sister, who was just 5 at the time, found Kristin and James, her parents, shot dead, still in their bed.
Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristin Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault.
I asked Ashley Halsey, communications director for the Carroll County Sheriff, about whether anything from Sarah's story raised red flags from the very beginning, and this is what she told me. What about her statements did investigators not find truthful when she started to become a suspect in this?
You know, when we arrived on scene on February 20th and obviously saw these deceased victims who had been shot multiple times. This is a very rural area of Carroll County. There's not a lot of ambient noise and things going on in that area. Very small home that they lived in. When the smallest child, who was forensically interviewed as well through this process, said she heard the gunshots, but the 17-year-old or 16-year-old at the time did not hear the gunshots, that was cause for pause for us early on.
I also asked about Sarah speaking at her parents' funeral. Here's part of that speech per WSB TV.
Although there's nothing we can do to bring them back, we still have control over how we treat people.
Here's what Halsey said stood out to her.
For me, watching it online, I wasn't there in person. You know, I don't know if she had real tears. I can't feel that emotion necessarily through watching it online. However, I think, you know, it was more like a speech. It was very scripted. And then at the end, you know, she said, and I'm sorry. Now, she may have been sorry because she was showing emotion possibly throughout that eulogy, if you want to call it that. But she also could have said it meaning something deeper. We just may never know exactly what she meant by that, but it did raise my eyebrows.
Halsey also said in announcing Sarah's arrest that more arrests are possible in this case. I asked about that. Here's what she said. I know another part of your news conference that has a lot of talk is the idea that there could be more arrests. What did you mean by that?
So basically, throughout this course of the investigation and working with Sarah, investigators have been speaking with her throughout. It's very possible that others are involved, whether they had knowledge or whether they assisted. We're still investigating that aspect. We're still conducting interviews this week. So even though an arrest has been made and we're grateful to bring some closure to the family, as tough as that may be for them, we still have a lot of work to do, and our main goal is to provide full justice for those victims and closure for the families.
And just clarification on that, would you say you're interviewing potential suspects in this case?
We are interviewing potential suspects and anyone that we feel may have information.
What we know about Sarah Grace is that she was 16 at the time of these murders. And she was very active on social media, and she was very active specifically on TikTok following the murders with her mourning. She was very public about that. She reached out to TikTok creators, at least 3 from our count, encouraging them to look into this case. Now, we know that she was doing that up until at least last month. One of those creators told me that Sarah Grace said that the story would get a lot of views if the creator covered it. Sarah Grace Patrick is accused in the murders of her mom and stepdad. She's facing 2 charges of first-degree murder and 2 charges of aggravated assault. She has yet to enter a plea. Her grandfather says she's innocent. He also says that he spoke to Sarah Grace Patrick, his granddaughter, since her arrest, and she says that she's innocent. Here's our interview. Joining us now is Sarah Patrick's grandfather and Kristin Brock's dad, Dennis Nolan. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. I can't imagine what you and your family are going through. First question, what was your reaction to Sarah's arrest this week?
Well, I'm very surprised. I mean, I've been talking to the detectives since it happened, had no indication that they were looking at Sarah as a suspect, no less any evidence that said she did it. So I was shocked.
Do you believe she's the one who did this?
No, I think to sum it up, really, the detectives, the best they could tell me was the evidence says that she's the only one who could possibly have done it. That says to me that there's no real evidence that says she did do it.
We hear that there's a mountain of evidence, but they haven't really said, but their term was mountain of evidence. What did they tell you beyond just she's the only one who possibly could have done it? What did they share with you about why they believe she's the one who is responsible for this?
Well, they never did share anything that said she was responsible, other than the fact that she's the only one. The evidence says she's the only one who could possibly have done it. Of course, they haven't revealed any of the evidence, because it's an ongoing investigation, and I understand that. But I know they were pressured to make an arrest, and I think this might have been premature. I don't think they needed to wait till the investigation was over. Sarah certainly wasn't going anywhere, but she's taking it very hard. She swears by her innocence.
Have you spoken with her since her arrest?
Yes, she called me from the jail the day after, of course, pleading for me to help her get out, and she was just very upset and saying, "Please help me." And there's not much I can do at this point. I don't know what else to say. I mean, she's always been a good kid. I've always liked Sarah. She was always very friendly, and she never really asked for anything. She was a very, to me, she was just an ideal child. She had just graduated from high school. She was very proud of that. She was working 2 jobs. She was doing very well, and I don't understand what could have ever, if she did do this, what triggered it.
If you, during that phone call, asked her if she had done it, what did she say?
I didn't ask her because it was just assumed she didn't do it. I wasn't going to accuse her of doing it. I just advised her to cooperate with the authorities, and we'd, wait and see, and hopefully get her through this.
And she maintained her innocence on that phone call. She said she's not the person.
She said, "I didn't do it." She said, "Why are they doing this to me?"
And I'm sorry to go back to February 20th, because I know you lost your daughter and your son-in-law. But what did Sarah tell you about that night in conversations that you had?
Just that Jaylee, her daughter, went in to wake them up. She came back, and Jaylee said she couldn't wake them up, and Sarah went in and found them, deceased. and she called 911, and that's all she said. She's never gone beyond that.
I know this is kind of a difficult question, but law enforcement said that they found it suspicious that Sarah would not have heard gunshots in that home. And that was something that in the beginning started, I guess, it was a red flag for them. And that a 5-year-old would go in and potentially hear gunshots. And I know James had a heart machine, but then Sarah would not. And that they found suspicious. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't know. The house was very unusual, and her bedroom wasn't next to theirs, but Sarah claimed that the TVs were on. I know they were on in both rooms, and I don't know. It did seem unusual to me that she didn't hear the gunshots, but at 1:30 in the morning, she was asleep. I know I'm such a solid sleeper, that it possibly could have happened to me and not heard it.
What was her relationship with James and Kristin?
It was good. It was very good. She was here Thanksgiving with them, and we had a good time. Everybody was happy, and it was good conversation. There was no trouble, and my conversations with Kristin right up to that night, she never mentioned anything about problems with Sarah, which she would have done. Kristin and I were very close. She was the daddy's girl.
Did Sarah know how to fire a gun?
I'm sure she did. Yeah.
And this is Georgia. I mean, many people grow up handling firearms. Did she grow up around guns? Were there guns in the house?
There were times they were here. I live out in the county, and we've taken, some of my guns and fired them off my deck and so forth. And I believe Sarah protected some of that at times. Her brothers were more interested in it. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say she grew up with guns. No.
At the funeral, and the spokesperson for the Carroll County Sheriff said that this was something that stood out to her. That in Sarah's speech at the funeral, she said sorry at the end of her speech, and I guess investigators, that was another red flag for them. What do you make of that? That being a red flag to the people now accusing her of murder?
I'm sorry. She wrote that speech, and I can't speak for her for that. It didn't even occur. That never occurred to me. I'm sure she was sorry it all happened. I am sorry it happened. Using the word sorry, I don't think is any admission of guilt. I think that's a little exaggerated.
When you think about that night and I'm sure it's run through your head a million times over the past roughly 6 months, but do you have any idea in your mind what happened that night, or whoever did this, what happened?
I have theories. I'm not gonna do anything now. I've told the detectives about what I feel and what I felt at the time, and I know they're investigating that, and I don't want to say anything at this time because I hope that I know their investigation is still going on, and I hope that it all comes out. I think there will be an additional arrest or two.
For James and Kristin, they seem to be, they were churchgoers, seem to be very beloved by members of the community. Is there anyone who might have had a problem with them?
Not that I know of. They lived in Carrollton. I'm up here in Rome, and we didn't see each other that often, but I didn't know of any problems. I know they were very happy. They were just baptized again, and they loved that church, and they were very active in it at the time.
Did Sarah have any challenges in terms of mental health issues or anything like that that you were aware of?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And law enforcement had said that she had moved around a bit. Who else was she? How long was she living with the Brocks?
You know, that statement, I must have been in another world, because that's not true. She was living with the Brocks in that house for as long as as long as they've lived there. You know, she would go see her father once in a while, and maybe spend a weekend with him. But no, she was living in that house, as far as I know, from the moment they purchased it.
There's a lot that's been made about her social media, her TikToks, and I know it's not easy to see any of this on the news media, but a lot of people are saying she's accused of this murder, but here she was presenting as if she was someone looking for sympathy, or even in some cases reaching out to people for views, to have creators and TikTok people, cover this case. What do you make of those accusations against her?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen. I don't use TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. I've heard that, but Sarah was upset, and she was, she was a 17-year-old young girl who was trying to be glamorous. She was trying to get her life together. I don't know about anything. I haven't seen anything that says that to me, that she was trying to do anything other than just be a 17-year-old girl. They all get on TikTok or whatever media, and they show off. I mean, that's not unusual.
Was there anything else that law enforcement said during that news conference that you want to push back on? Obviously, beyond the notion that they believe that she is the person who killed the Brocks.
Well, the notion that she was moving around, that she was, and they keep saying a mountain of evidence. Well, if they present the evidence, maybe I could have, think differently. But until I see the evidence, I mean, she's innocent until proven guilty, unless things have changed in the law. But they've yet to show me that she's been proven guilty.
And then just a couple more questions for you, if it's okay. For people who have only seen the outside of the home when it was a crime scene, and I know you talked about an interesting makeup of it, but take us inside if you can, and just describe what that home was like, where unfortunately this crime took place, and then where everyone else was inside the house.
Well, the house was originally a very small home that had 2 or 3 additions put on it in the back, and it was very unusual the way the bedrooms were laid out. And Kristin and James' bedroom was, back in the far right of the house, but Sarah's bedroom was on the far left, and there was, if I remember correctly, there was at least one bedroom and some basic, I don't know what kind of room, just a general room in between. So it wasn't like our room was right next to their bedroom. It was sort of down the hall.
Does Sarah have a lawyer?
Not at this time, no.
And when do you expect to speak with her again?
I'm waiting for I'm sure she's had an arraignment by now, but I haven't heard. And waiting for arrange the bond hearing. If there is one, I think there has to be one. I'm sure she'll probably call us at any time.
Is there anything that I missed that you want to make sure people know?
Not really. I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, Sarah, to me, again, I don't think there's no evidence that I'm aware of that says she did it. And for the police to just say that she's the only one who could possibly do it, that to me is circumstantial and doesn't warrant her arrest. I think they need to finish the investigation, and hopefully other factors will come up, and she'll be cleared of this.
Dennis Nolan, again, I'm so sorry, we all are, for everything your family's been through. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law&Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.